Who doesn't love a good story about an underdog, an individual who had it hard in life, didn't have much growing up, and now became very successful and have built an empire around themselves?
It's the American story. It's the American story, yeah. So y'all take a listen to this episode. This was not initially recorded for the Stuff About Money podcast, but I sat down with a friend of mine, fellow podcaster, Jason Cass, and we had a conversation with two individuals, one who's been a guest on our show, my dad, Felix Garcia, and then a younger individual, Ebens Gene. Ebens is from Haiti, young 30 or early 30s, but both of them came to this country, didn't speak the language, and built successful businesses, and Ebens is still building his business here. Both of them are in the insurance space, and the podcast show is in the insurance space, but you're going to love this story, even though you're not in the insurance space. So y'all take a listen. Let us know what you think.
All right, you loyal listeners. Welcome to another episode of Agents Influence, and that's the one we're going to go with. You notice I kind of stuttered there because this is not me. This is me. I mean, this is really me talking, and this is the podcast, but this podcast was inspired and brought to us by Mr. Erik Garcia. Now, you guys know him. He down there from that place down in NOLA. I call it the Down Under, and he says, no, Jason, that's Australia, bro. We're still in the same country. Right. But to the rest of the world, it's still kind of down under. We love it there. We're going there for brain share. He came to me, he said, Cass, I want to do this podcast, and here's what it is. And I said, dude, let's do it. And here we are. Loyal listeners, right now, it is May 13th at 10:50 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Erik Garcia. Tell me what you got planned, man. What was in your brain when you called and wanted to do this?
Yeah, what's happening, y'all? Erik Garcia, certified financial planner. I am one of the co-hosts of the Stuff About Money podcast. This is going to be a collaboration, obviously, with Jason and I. So here's the thing. We're at BrainShare, Kansas City. And I love meeting new agents, and I love particularly meeting diverse agents. I think our industry, and most people would agree, is old and white. And anytime I'm able to meet an agent that serves the ethnic marketplace well and is ethnic themselves, it gets me excited. Y'all know my background. My background is Cuban. Both of my parents are Cuban. We serve an ethnic marketplace. Ethnic marketplaces are underserved. So immediately I introduced myself to Ebens Gene. Ebens is one of our guests, and he is from Haiti. Came to this country when he was 12. Now, what y'all might not know is there's a deep connection between Haiti and New Orleans. We're not going to go into the history of it. So we got to talking. We hit it off, and in talking to him, his story is kind of my family story. My dad came to this country from a Caribbean island, not speaking the language, and ended up in the insurance industry. So I went to Jason and said, Jason, we got to get these two guys on a podcast telling us their stories about coming to this country, not speaking the language, and talking about how they fell into the insurance industry. And we got these two guys are 2 generations apart. It'd be just a good time to hear them swap stories. So here we are.
Yep. 2 gentlemen that left voluntarily, or maybe not, probably not voluntarily, the Caribbean, while I'm begging to go back every time we have vacation. So I tell you what, thank you very much. Erik, that is a good intro, and I'm glad it's someone like you who has a big heart, but you have a big heart because you have a road of understanding. I want to introduce, as he has, also Mr. Felix Garcia, because this guy has been a huge blessing in my life over the last 3 months. Didn't really know him other than Erik talking about him all the time and seeing him and his dad sit around and have some wine every once in a while. But Felix, I am grateful to what?
We had rum.
Rum. What I say, wine?
We do rum, man.
Yeah, that's sorry. You don't have that down under.
And cigars.
Oh.
Rum and cigars. Get it right, Cass.
That is my fault. I mean, you go to the Caribbean, man, they're not drinking a lot of wine, Cass. Come on, buddy. You've been there. Let's act like you've been to the game. Felix, welcome, buddy. Thank you very much for joining us. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to start with just a question for each of you, man. I just want to hear your story about coming to America. Right, both of you came when you were teenagers, or even you were almost a teenager, didn't speak a lick of English, and ended up in this country. So share with us, and Ebens, you can go first. Like maybe share with us a story. Like what was maybe the biggest obstacle of coming to America at that age and just trying to figure things out.
Thank you for letting me be a guest on the podcast, man. Look, I had a great conversation with you, Eric, Jason. But anyway, man. When I first came to this country, it always a dream. Like back home, back in the island in Haiti, man. Coming to America always it's a dream of every kid, man. Because when you think about America, man, you're thinking about um, it's the land of the opportunity. Um, Another thing that we joke around too is that people think that money grow in tree. Like when you come to America, the you see a tree of money just falling in the ground. So that's how we back home. That's how we think about America. So coming here, man, as a teenager, man, it was great. Um, in the beginning, I didn't know the language when I got here, man, and what got me was the temperature, because I'm from a hot
The
place.
temperature.
Yeah, the temperature, man. Not even the language. The language was the second thing, but like um it's adapting to the temperature, man. Like when I got here, it was January and it was cold, and I didn't have a jacket. I had a t-shirt and a jean, and because we flew out of JFK, and it was cold. It was freezing, man. So at that time, I was like, man, how people live like this, man? Like I was like, I can't live like this. I'm a young kid. I was like, how am I gonna live like this? So that was one of the obstacles for me. The language came the next thing. Um, it was different, man. It was different. Like trying to learn the language. They understand what people were saying. Everything was new, man. Everything was new because
Did you have family in the States? Like how did you leave Haiti?
Yeah, that was my question.
actually so it started with my grandpa. My grandpa and my mom's side. He came into the United States in the 1980s. Then from there, he brought my mom and my uncle and my aunt over early 90s. So when my mom left when I was like 3 years old. My mom left, came to this
Wow.
country. So um, so basically I kind
It's
of grew up without no mom being around at that 3 years old. Then my mom and my dad, they split up, they got divorced, they split up. Then from there,
Mm-hmm.
it took my mom 11 from 94 to 2003, so 9 years. Is it 9 years? Close, almost like close to 10 years for her to bring us here in the United States. It was a struggle. It's not easy, man. All the process, as Felix know, like the paperwork, it was not easy, man. So my mom actually brought us here. So I have family, all my sibling, my mom and my dad, they in the state.
And your mom didn't tell you it's cold? She didn't say, Ebens, bring a jacket?
Man, I don't know if it was the excitement that she had for us to come to this country, man. Like she didn't want us, man. She did not want us. So I didn't have no jacket, man. So that was one of the things for me.
That's funny, the temperature. Yeah, if there's anything
Wow.
that any of you interact with anybody from the South. And in New Orleans, we joke one of the names for New Orleans is the northernmost Caribbean port because culture, food, temperature,
I've heard that.
it's very
Heard that,
Caribbean.
yeah.
Man, and if the temperature drops below like 72 and we don't have a jacket, we're cold.
Wow.
Absolutely. I can see that. I can see that.
So, Felix, same question for you. What was the maybe the biggest challenge coming to America?
Well, let me first begin by telling you that I was a very happy kid in Cuba. Unfortunately, I never had a father. I didn't grow up with a father, and my mother was too young and inexperienced to take care of me. I had a grandfather who really loved me and cared for me, and he made sure that before he passed, he entrusted me to a family that he used to work for, who were very well off. And although I was born in a poor home, I was raised like a rich kid because his family took care of me.
Wow.
Left Cuba when I was 15 years old with a man who used to travel a lot. Every year he would spend 6 months out of the year in Cuba and 6 months out of the year traveling abroad. And he was at that time about my age now, about 70, 75. And he always brought a young man with him to carry his bags because he was old. And on the last trip, he asked me if I wanted to leave Cuba, and I said yes.
So what real quick context, what year was that?
That was 1963 when I left Cuba. I was 15 years old. We went to Spain, lived in Barcelona, Spain until March 1964. From there, we got our visa. Then we came directly to New Orleans. We traveled by boat and got to New York and eventually ended up here in New Orleans because he had a sister who lived here in New Orleans. A year later, after our arrival in New Orleans, he died. He passed away, and I was left all alone with no family. I was fortunate enough to be able to stay with his sister, but I had to work because they were also Cuban refugees. All right, so I started working. Let me back up a little bit. When I first came in, I started to go to school. Went to high school, but like I said, a year later I had to quit because I had to work. But in one of the times that I was, kids used to make fun of me because I couldn't speak English at all. I was, it was, and when I opened my mouth, they realized that I was a foreigner, so I wasn't treated very well. They would make fun of me. So one day, traveling home after school, I always like to sit in the back of the bus because I don't like to have anybody behind me. That's been from very young age. So I'm in the back of the bus, and there are some kids making fun of me. And I just got up, looked at them, and I said, "You see me? Now, one day I speak two languages, you only one." Just like that. Hardly say anything. And sure enough, and my kids laugh every time I tell that story.
Sure.
But anyway, it was when I first arrived in the United States, I was afraid. I was I didn't think that the wind the wind that I was breathing wasn't mine. That I was in, the language barrier, new people, a new country. I didn't feel right about walking in the street because I just felt like I was a foreigner. I didn't belong here. And those were my feelings at the very beginning when I first came here.
Ebens, were those common feelings that you had as well?
Yeah, especially when he said when Felix say like people making fun of you because you don't speak the language. I had that too, man. Like back in school, I was shy. I didn't wanna talk because people like because the language is not for you. So you have a thick accent, so people make fun of you. So that one I could definitely relate, man. I could definitely relate, and also to is adapting to the new culture. I could relate, like not understand the language, feel like I don't belong there because I'm not from here. So I could relate to what Felix is saying. And
So
go ahead.
so for both of you, how long did it take to kind of feel like, all right, I belong here? Like this is, I'm good. I'm comfortable.
When I arrived in the United States in New Orleans, it was in the middle of the civil rights movement. Okay, and I had several experiences, with people being prejudiced against me. And one particular situation was now I think I'm about 18 years old, and I was already getting acclimated to the United States. I started losing all my fears and all that. Started meeting people, so I started feeling more comfortable about being around. But at one time, I didn't have a car, and I had a friend who was selling me an automobile. I remember correctly. I mean, specifically, it was a Cutlass Supreme, and he was asking $600. Now, $600 back in those days was a lot of money. It was really a lot of money. So I went to the bank to ask for a loan. And although I had my checking account and my savings account, they denied the loan. So I went back to the bank and I said, I want to talk to one of the officers. Now here I'm 18 years old. I'm meeting with a man who is in his 50s. I go in and I ask the question, why didn't I get the loan? He said, you foreigners think that you're going to come to this country to make demand. So I immediately looked at him and he said, excuse me, are you an American Indian? He said, why are you asking that? I said, because if you're not an American Indian, you're a foreigner just like I am. Thank you. Take your money and keep it. And I just walked out. And I moved my account from there. But those, at the beginning, it really hit me hard. But then I just say, this guy is ignorant. And so but those are the things that I went through, growing in this country at that age.
So go ahead, Jason.
Oh, hold on. First of all, I want you to know, Ebens, that the government of America actually thinks that money grows on trees too. I just want you to know that they think that as well. Okay, very important. I had to make that note. One thing I want to ask, and this is what I can't wrap my brain around. Okay, it doesn't matter being white or anybody, just coming from another place, coming in and saying that you can't speak the language. I don't understand that. I can't wrap my head around the fact that you got off the bus, Ebens, and you're like, shit, it's cold, but you said it in your language, and then like you're gotta go buy a sandwich. Right? Like, how are you going to school and listening to what they're trying to teach you? I know that's funny, but I can't wrap my head around it.
It's hard to think when you're cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very hard to think when you're cold. But I mean, Felix or Ebens, how was that first day of school when you don't know what anybody's saying?
Well, I'll tell you a couple of stories. One time I went to this sandwich shop, and I wanted to have a shrimp sandwich. I couldn't say shrimp, I said spring sandwich. And they looked at me funny. What? I said a spring sandwich. Until finally I have to just point to what I wanted it. And all the time I wanted a ham sandwich, and I asked for a ham sandwich. Okay.
I can see that. Ebens, I mean, same things with you. I mean, how did you do that?
First day of school, man, I didn't understand anything. Everything was like, it didn't make no sense, man. Like, I remember my mom actually dropped us like by the bus stop, and all she told me is that if anybody asks you a question, tell them that you don't speak English. And I couldn't even say that. Like, she said, tell them you don't speak English. And when I got to school, man, I was lost. No, because everybody that was on the bus, the school bus, they speak English. So when I got to school, man, I had to point at stuff. No, but the first day of school, man, I didn't quite understand anything. Like, I didn't understand a damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was talking to this lady in Cuba. She actually teaches English to Cubans when I was in Cuba. And she said that you can teach them over and over, but the best way to teach them is to use the hands, right? Like, if you do this, they all know that you're flying back to America. If you're watching YouTube, you get to see this, but like a plane going off with your hand. And so rather than me trying to explain it, I could go like that. And they're like, oh, okay, I know exactly. And she said that that's a way that they teach them in Cuba, the English is the English.
language.
Teach them English is the point.
Sign language.
I'm gonna tell you,
Yeah.
Cubans, it's a Latin culture, and I would imagine even it's probably similar in Haiti. You wanna really quiet a Cuban, tie their hands behind their back. They cannot speak if they don't have
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
They can't. That's actually kind of funny. That's very true. That's very true. And it sounds like Ebens, that was
Yeah.
similar with you. I mean, you were pointing at things like, hey, I just can't imagine sitting in math class. I didn't understand math. I got an F in math and I understood what she was saying. Okay. You guys are getting good grades in the damn thing and you can't even understand her. So good for you. I just think that's interesting. And then the last thing I want to ask you real quick, it goes back to that similar thing. I'm trying to get your guys' feelings because that's what's really hard for Jason, who was born in Phoenix, Arizona, to understand is what was your thoughts when you got that first paycheck? You got that first paycheck, and obviously it's the dinero is worth, or the dinero, the U.S. dollar is worth more than, better other currencies. So here you go, you work 40 hours and you get this $300 check, or Felix, it was back in the 80s, it was probably $200, and that was huge money. How
Back
much?
in the 60s.
60, but I'm talking about in America.
Oh, okay. No, I was.
We're in America.
I was already in America in the 60s, 64.
Okay, that's right, because you went over to Barcelona and then,
Right.
okay, my fault. Felix, I've always thought that you came in the 80s, and I don't know why. I just always think, because there was a big, Castro let a lot of people come over.
It was in the 80s.
Yeah. He made a deal with like Carter or something like that, President Carter or ex-president, and then they let him come
It
through.
was John F. Kennedy, the president, when I left.
Right. And there was a big scare, which is interesting, that Castro was going to do nothing but open the prison system and allow a lot of those people to come to America. And actually, I heard that happened a little bit, but the Cubans tell me that didn't happen as much. That was American propaganda.
That happened on the Maria lift when there's, and that would happen in the 80s. Yes.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you gotta think prisoners in Cuba are not like prisoners in New Orleans. Like you go to
Right.
jail in Cuba because you bought a cow on the black market or had U.S. dollars, right?
Good point. That's
Because
also a
you
good
spoke
point.
bad about the government. You didn't feel you didn't agree with the government, and people will go to jail for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was important to me though. Is like you come here, you want the land of opportunity, and then Ebens, you start working, and you're like, wow, I really am now starting to make the American money, and I can actually start to buy things. I mean, what was that feeling at the initial part of, hey, I'm going to go look for my own place? Are you still living with your mom? I mean, what were you doing at that very beginning
At the very
part?
beginning part, my first job was at McDonald's. And when I was
Okay.
about 14, I got my first job. And I remember my first paycheck, man. My first paycheck that I ever got, it was about $150, man. And I went with that money. I saved some. I went and bought a phone. And it was the best feeling, man. As a kid, man, look, I could work and make my own money. So
Yes.
it was the best feeling for me. Because back home, it's a little bit different. Because as a young age back home, like you have to work. You have that work ethic already. Most kids are working from 6 to 7 years old or even younger. Like you already have that work ethic. So I understand that work ethic at an early age back home. And when I came here, man, like it was no brainer for me because I know I have to work. No, I have to work. So I remember.
And one other thing, and I want to turn this over to you, Erik. I hear, Erik, you talk about, and I think it's because of your background, and community is so important to you. I also think it's New Orleans. You guys are just different cats down there. But when I talked to Ebens, and I talked to him about his agency, and I talked to him on the other podcast, loyal listeners, I have another podcast we did probably about a month and a half ago from when you're listening to this. And I remember you told me, Ebens, your commitment is to your community. That's what's huge for your agency, and I hear that, and I think that's a breath of fresh air. That's something that Americans who are spoiled in their ways. It's so weird because I'm not here to talk bad about being a white person, but we also have our very, very limited view of the world. I just think it's interesting how you guys are so community involved. What do you think about that, Eric? Do you think that that's New Orleans? Do you think that's you and your background,
So
ethnic
this
background?
is totally a cultural thing. You got to understand, America is we're very independent. This is not right, wrong, or indifferent. The American is very
That's
independent, right? If you look at how we live, how we work, we have yards, we have fences. You go to Cuba, you go to Haiti, you go to a lot of other countries around the world, particularly your third world countries or your underdeveloped countries. Dude, if you don't have community, you don't survive. It is about the community. It is you are plugged in. It's that it takes a village. That's a very cultural thing. That's not a liberal or conservative or social or commentary. That's just reality. Like extended family is, I grew up my grandparents lived across the street, and then when my grandfather passed away, my grandmother moved in. And like that's very common. So community, family, man, we had people over for Christmas. Like I call them cousins. I don't even know if we're related, right? They're related by, So I think it's a very cultural thing that in America we look at things independently. It's me centric. In most other countries, it's us centric.
I think that's a struggle we're going through right now with America. It's one of the reasons why we don't want to be part of the collective world, because that would make us to have to make decisions with other people, as opposed to Americans. We want to be very independent. Not saying one's right or wrong. Anybody loyal listeners listening, you disagree with me, who cares? It's my show. Shut up. There was something, Felix, that you said. You said, Felix, something when he was talking.
I said that we call everybody primos.
Primos.
Primo is cousin.
Primos, what does that mean? First, best, whatever.
Cousin.
Oh, Primos is cousin.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Everyone's family. Everyone's related. So I think it's incredibly
Even
cultural.
our friends, we call them primo. Yeah.
And for some reason in America, we politicize everything. And I kind of have like a foot in both worlds, right? Like the born to immigrant parents, but grew up in America. So I kind of have like two perspectives. And we like to, especially now, everything has a political edge to it. And it's not political, right? Like you can believe in community and this idea it takes a village and not be, a liberal progressive, right? It's just everything is so political in this country.
Yeah, it's very much.
So, Jason, you asked the question about paychecks. So I want to kind of skip ahead here. Both of you.
See, I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk about investing for your retirement. Both of you, listeners, if you know immigrant families, there's something about immigrants that have. Jason, you talked about work ethic, and Ebens, you talked about work ethic. Man, you look around you, there are so many successful immigrants. The work ethic is just, it blows me away. So you both came here, worked through some, worked through a lot of obstacles, a lot of people. You probably had to work a little bit harder to be successful than I had to work to be successful for various reasons. You had to overcome things that I didn't have to, that the majority of these listeners didn't have to overcome. And y'all found yourselves in the insurance industry. So tell us a little bit, how did you end up in this space? And you talk about money growing on trees. If there's an industry, Jason, you talk about insurance industry being, the best industry that God ever created. This is an industry where if you do things right, money does kind of grow on trees. It's hard,
You're damn right about that.
You can make good money. How did y'all end up in this industry?
Well, I was gonna let the man go first, Garcia. I was gonna let Felix go first because he's an OG, so he's been in the game longer than I do, man. Let him go first. I'll let him go first on this one.
All right,
Felix.
Okay, there's a story about this guy who was told, hey, man, you got to go to the United States because the money is everywhere on the streets. So he gets off the boat and is walking and sees a $100 bill on the floor, kicks and he says, well, pick it up, there's more. So he went on, he didn't pick up the $100 bill. Anyway, when I first came, I inherited, now I'm 16 years old, I inherited a bicycle from a guy that I used to go to school with before, who had a paper route. And I used to get up in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, to deliver papers. I don't remember how much I was making at the time. Then during the day, I had another job. I was a courier, bringing documents from office to office. Because at the time there was no way. I mean, everything had to go. You had to walk to the office and bring those paperwork. And then at night, I had another job, marking merchandise at a store called D.H. Homes, which used to be a fine store.
Like a department store.
It was taken over by, I think, Macy's
Dillard's.
or something like that.
Dealers.
Dealers. It was taken over by dealers. And so I had 3 jobs. And I have always been, I always said, and Eric knows, that I used to tell my kids, if you make $5 today, spend 3 and save 2 for tomorrow. Because that's what I used to do. I used to save money. But anyway, I ended up in the insurance business because I only lasted at least no more than 3 years in a job. If I was there and I didn't see that I could not move up for whatever reason it may be, and I would look around and say, well, this guy, he would have to quit or he will have to die in order for me to advance. So I didn't see the way, so I kept changing jobs. And in 1977, I entered into the insurance business. I quit a job that it was paying very well. I was making $375 a week working as a manager in a supermarket. And I quit that to go to come to the insurance business making $250 a week plus commission. And my first year in the business, I was the number 5 rookie in the southern region.
Okay. Wow. Doesn't surprise me.
I even went to one of the conventions. I made one of the conventions. Okay. And from there on, I started doing better and better. But then in 1980, I was limited to life insurance only with the company that I was with. So a friend of mine who had been working with me at the same company moved to another company who was a lot smaller than the one that I was working for. So I saw that he was being able to sell property and casualty and every other products. So I decided to come with this company, and I was with this company for up until last year in June, 40 years with the company. And I did very well. I did very well in the insurance business. It was my niche. It was because I wanted it to be independent. I didn't want to have anybody to tell me what to do. I didn't want to have anybody to tell me, I'm going to pay you this is what you're worth. And when I went to work for the supermarket, they told me, we're going to pay you $2.80 an hour. And what I wanted to tell this man was, who are you to tell me what I'm worth? I'm worth more than $2.80. But if I would have told him that, I would have never gotten the job. Okay, so I had to just take it and eat it. But that's how I always felt. I wanted to be independent.
Tell the story real quick about your first paycheck when you started selling property and casualty insurance.
And then after 3 years with the other company, I had to give up everything and move into a new company again, starting all over again. And when I got my first property and casualty check, it was, I think it was $45. And I really got angry, and I walked into the man's office. This man was, he was a gentleman. He was a great manager. And I stood in front of him, and I took the check, and I threw it at him. I said, do you think I can feed a family with the $45? And thinking back now, if I would have been him, I would have told me, just get the heck out of my office, don't ever come back. I would have fired the guy because I was disrespectful to this man who was a gentleman. He sat me down and he talked to me, and he said, it takes time. It's like a field. You have to plant first, and then later on you will recover the benefit from what you do. Now that I'm older, if I would have been the manager, somebody would come to me and do what I did to him, I would have done exactly what he did. This man saw in me potential. He saw potential in me, and I'm grateful that he did not fire me, because I really deserve to be fired for losing my patience and being disrespectful to the man. So and that's my story of my first check.
Love it. Love it. Ebens, how about
Man,
you?
so ooh,
Great story.
so mine is actually, man, a friend of mine was on the employee benefit side. So he introduced me to the employee benefit side, where he used to go into company selling legal insurance, basically providing legal services to different organization. And he introduced me to that. So I started doing that. From there, I saw seeing other agents, other broker coming in when I go to these companies, and something in my mind said, just ask them how do they do that? Because they have a agency. How do they do that? So strike a conversation with one of them. They told me they have to get licensed, and this is how they went about doing it. So I got my shot with Allstate. So when I went, put an application with Allstate. So I got an opportunity working for Allstate as a captive agent. Did a couple years there. Then what I found out by working there is that I was limited as a captive agent. I couldn't fully serve my community the way I wanted to serve my community. Then my wife, who was on the independent side already, who's been there years, she told me, and look, go into the independent side. She give me one of the broker contacts. She said, give him a call, go work for that person. When I went to work for that independent broker, and I had a like similar story with what Felix had. I was one of the top agent for that broker on the independent side, and it was one thing that actually that broker did. I remember sitting down, and one month I brought this gentleman over a hundred $100,000 in premium. Guess what my paycheck was? My commission was $100.
What?
So
Son of a
I'm not good in
bitch.
math. I'm not good in math, right? And I had a conversation with the owner. Went to his office, had a conversation with him because it was supposed to be 10%. 10% of 100K in premium. It's not $100. So had a conversation with him, man, and I hand him the check. I hand him the $100 commission check. I was like, you could have it. You could keep it. From there, man, that was like the light bulb for me. Uh, and plus, my son was born. It gave me another motivation to become my own boss, not to become independent, man. And that was like my wake up call. I had to do something different because if I keep working from this person, I'm building this person dream. I'm not building my own dream for my family. So that was my wake up call, man. And from there, we went in. My wife and I, we put our head together, man. Put our plan together to open our own agency, and we took the risk. Now it was a risk that we had to take, and we took it, man. That was the best decision ever. So
I see
Love.
Felix shaking his head, kind of nodding along.
no,
What are you thinking?
Yeah,
Dan?
I
Like,
do
I
too.
want to hear as you're hearing Eben's story. What are you thinking?
No, it's again. I see the then when you come into a new country, your desire to succeed. It's engraved in every one of us. I see many foreign, especially the Vietnamese community. They come here and they work hard. I see blacks from other countries, from Haiti, from Jamaica. They making it. They're doing well because they have the opportunity to work and to be able to make money, and so it's.
I think when you look at it, Jason, this kind of goes back to that question you asked earlier about the community in the culture. So if you you've been to Cuba right now, you go every now and then, Jason. And if you ever ask a Cuban in Cuba, what do they do for a living? Right? Like if you ever ask that question, typically what they're going to say is, Dad, what would they say? You ask a Cuban, hey, what do you do? How do you make ends meet? What do they say? Felix?
You asking me?
Yeah. If you ask Cuban, if you go to Cuba today, say, hey, what do you do for a living? What are they going to tell you?
I forgot what they say, but it's something like
we resolve things.
Yo resuelvo.
Yo resuelvo. We resolve things.
Meaning I'm gonna make it. I find a way to do it.
I'll figure it out. There's this hustle, right? And I think that's common in a lot of immigrants. Is, you know what? No one's going to give me anything. I have to earn everything that I get. I don't have the resources to plug into that someone else might. I don't have family with money that are giving me opportunities or giving me a start in business. So there's this hustle that, man, I got to grind it out if I'm going to make ends meet. And then for the guys like Ebens and Felix, you start to see, like, wait a minute, I'm putting in twice as much hustle than that guy. And that son of a gun is making more money than me. I'm better than him. I can do that. And it's just that hustle, man. They just get things done.
And to add to that, before there were immigrants, which we were always immigrants, as he said, unless you're American Indian, women have been here forever, and it's the same thing with them. They're not paid what they're supposed to be. It's just as unequal. I don't want to say just as unequal, but it is very unequal. You know, here's the word we're all missing. I'm waiting, right? I'm waiting for Felix. I'm waiting for Ebens. And it's like, this is a word we don't use anymore. But where I think about this word is not so much what immigrants and who they are with their work ethic, but who we've become as Americans today, and we lack this. And the word is called grateful. When we talk about the things, when I look it up right now, I love doing this stuff. It's expressing gratitude, grateful, thanks, affording a pleasure or contentment, pleasing by reason of comfort supplied, and discomfort, I like this, alleviated. That's actually the definition of what they say grateful is. And I think that's today where I see the American worker a lot of time who is abusing or wanting more and saying, are you grateful for what you have? Because when I went to Cuba, I realized that they have nothing and they're grateful. They have nothing. You know why? Because as long as they have each other, as long as they've got Jesus, right? That they feel grateful just to wake up. And it's like there's people who are going and they're making $40 an hour with full benefits, and we're going to strike because we want 42. I'm not here to get into that argument or not, but I think we need to be grateful and be understanding of where we truly, truly live. It's pretty amazing. So I think that is something that was said there. We need to wrap this up, but I want you to know I've got the name. As I'm over here typing, guys, I'm typing notes to the team. But you guys have some great sayings. But what we're going to name this is Coming to America. I felt the wind I was breathing was not mine. That's something Felix said. And when he said it, I really saw Ebens shaking his head, yes, because I think that summed it up right? As an immigrant coming here, I felt the wind I was breathing was not mine. I really, really like that a lot.
I got a shop question for them real quick, if I can ask it.
Okay. Yeah. We're not shutting down right now. I just want to kind of bring it to that spot.
Because I struggle, as an agency owner, one of my biggest struggles is hiring. And the reason is because I always remember my dad telling me, son, don't ever let anyone tell you what you're worth. And my struggle always is, man, I'm hiring somebody and I'm telling them what they're worth. And I always heard his voice in my mind, like, man, there was always this tension there. So both of you coming to this country, hustling, kind of having that same mentality of, man, I can make money in this business. No one can tell me what I'm worth. How have you dealt with that maybe that tension of, man, I don't want to do to them what somebody did to me.
First,
Ebens, you go first, man.
I want to be honest with anybody that we hire, man. Like you said, because I don't want to tell the person you worth that. Especially when it come producer. When it comes to producers, man, I'm looking at this. If you have that mindset, that driven mindset, that entrepreneur mindset, that's the kind of people that we look for. And with that, like the sky is the limit now. So I'm not gonna tell the person as a producer. I'm gonna tell you, look, you could make as much as you want. It's gonna be up to you,
Right.
the work that you put in. But what I found out is that a lot of people don't want to put that work in. No, they want us to hand them the the paycheck, the commission, like everything, but they're not willing to put that work in. If you're willing to put that work in, the sky's the limit. Especially in this industry, you could make as much as you want, but it depends. It depends on you. Really depends on you. So
it seems like giving them that opportunity, like, hey, you're coming in as a CSR, and this is what that position pays. But there's opportunity if you want to be a producer to make more money. Is that kind of how you approach it? And if they choose not to, that's cool. Then they're going to make what a fair wage would be in that role.
As Eben said, they're setting their own value. Now we're not setting the value, right? That's. I like that. Eben's very, very, very forward thinking. Ebens, how long have you been an agency owner?
4 years.
Okay, so not brand new. You ain't some new kid on the block. You know what I'm talking about? Felix, anything you have thoughts on that?
Well, I've been an agency owner for 40 years. There was one time that my agency was producing. As a matter of fact, after Erik graduated, he came in with us, and he knows that we were always very fair with our employees. We had a lady who was on commission and a base salary, and she was making book of money up until Katrina.
There's a reason. There's backstory to that. So he was captive. Let me give the backstory real quick. He was captive. Katrina hit New Orleans. Okay, let me back up before that. Any business that he couldn't place with his company, he was able to place with the citizens, Louisiana citizens here in Louisiana, and he didn't want anything to do with it, right? So he told his producer, "You write it, you keep 50% of it." Okay, so that was their agreement. So she could write as much. She kept 50% of that business. Katrina hits. The company he represented started canceling everybody. Well, not everybody, but a lot of policies. So the only person that was writing was Louisiana citizens. Didn't matter who was writing it in the agency. He had that agreement with this producer. And I'm doing the books one day, and I'm looking at this, and we're like in May. And I go to him. I said, "You realize?" And I say producer. She wasn't a traditional producer. She's not out there hitting the streets. I mean, she was more of like a producing CSR service type person, With the captives, it's so easy to service. So she would basically just write business we had a lot of referral business coming through. I went to him like in May. I said, she's going to make, this is in 2006 probably, 2006, 2007. So she's going to make over $100,000 this year.
Wow.
And she wasn't a traditional producer. And I said, we got a problem. Your contract says this. So like, what are we going to do? So we honored that contract that year. And when we went to her and said, here's the problem. This company's canceling everybody. We're writing it over here, and you're keeping 50% of it, and we can't afford as an agency to do this, but we're going to honor it this year. And then we kind of readjusted her contract after that. But man, I'm like, we can't do this.
They can't. Well, it's just, he's gracious, but also understanding. I'm too gracious with my employees. According to Travis, they all make too much. To me, I want to keep paying them more, but there is a limit to that. But I do like what you said, Ebens. I like how you structured that around. I'm the agency can only pay you this to make money, but inside that you can make as much as you want, right? I mean, there's some agents that get paid the same and make 250,000, and another agent in the same agency makes 80. So yeah, anything. Here's I want to get. Maybe everything's different. Maybe it's not. Tell me about maybe one of your favorite books. Leaders are readers, and readers are leaders, and you both are leaders, so you must be readers. So tell me about some of the books that you're reading as we wrap
I'm
up here.
reading
Ebens, you tell me first.
The Power of Broke by Damon John.
The
Yeah,
Power of Broke. BROKE.
Yeah, The Power of Broke. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I like
Yeah,
that.
by
Eric's right.
the
Baby, Dan, look at
Fubu's
it. Has it to do
founder,
with-
Damon John, the guy that started Fubu. Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Shark Tank.
Yep.
Shark Tank guy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good call there. I haven't heard that one. A lot of times I hear the repeats. Felix, you reading anything right now?
I am not much of a reader, but the book that I keep on my desk all the time is one that I wrote, which is called Ingredients for Success, and it's on top.
You wrote that, Felix?
Yes, it's on top of my desk.
Eric doesn't tell everybody because he wants everybody to think he's the coolest of the Garcias. But
Oh man, I've never
what the
claimed.
hell,
I have
Eric?
never claimed that, man. Dude, I would sit.
Yeah,
so
well, what the hell? You're not telling. He's writing masterpieces over here, and you're not telling anybody.
Look at that.
look at that,
Oh, look at that.
Jason. No lie.
Once again, why you need to be watching YouTube?
When I first came into this business, my office was right across from his, and I would sit there and I would listen to him talk to people, and like literally, I'd be like, "Holy crap! Like, how did he get away saying that?" Like I'm like 22 years old. I'm like, oh my God, I could never say that. Like he said, and then people were like he would say it with such confidence, and they would buy more crap from him. I'm like, my God.
Dude, my mentor, Mike Beard, was the same way. There was no, I had the office right next to them. There was no insulation in the wall. And I would listen to him. Same thing, Eric. I would sit there and go, man, I can't wait till I can talk to people like that. And it wasn't rude. As you said, it was confidence and here's what you need. And just the other day, Jake said to me, he's 23, works in my office. He said, Jason, I can't wait until I can talk to customers like you talk to them. And I was like, wow. That was one of those moments where I had to walk outside like, oh, shit, that's what I was told 20 years ago.
So you know what his job is?
So
you know what his job is today? So he left the agency that he was with, like the captive he was with. Now he's working for me. You know what his job is? We literally give him lists of clients to call because he loves this crap. And it's usually problems. It's claims that aren't resolved, people who haven't paid, policies that have gone up by 30%, and he freaking thrives in it. He comes in when he wants, makes the calls when he wants, and like sends new business. So someone complains about their premium. Next thing we know, he's like sending them to our producer, and she's writing more insurance for him. And he loves that crap.
Oh my gosh. Felix, if we'd have known this, we'd have had you retire 10 years ago.
I'm a client's advocate.
You are. That's enough said. I hate to say it, but that's when the clients drive me crazy. I got to get them out of them. That's too much energy for me. I got to get them in somebody's hands who can take care of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too much energy for me. All right, guys. Hey, wrapping it up. Anybody have anything last words to
All I'm
say?
gonna say is
Ebens,
that
got
if
anything?
you have a dream, take the risk. Now be a risk taker for your dreams, for your family. Now take that risk. Anybody that's listening, anything that you want to do in life, you gotta be able to take risks, and that risk that you're gonna take is gonna be worth it at the end.
Eric? Oh, sorry, Felix. I was thinking Garcia. Felix?
I'm just going to, I have something to read out of the book over here, but I'm just going to say that the road to success is always on the construction. I love quotes. I don't know who made that quote, but I love it. Now, I'm going to read something out of the book that I wrote, and if you ask me, what does success mean? I'll tell you what I don't think success is. You know, some people think that success is driving an expensive automobile, buying a big house, being successful in the business, driving an expensive car, living in a mansion. And success is more than that. Success, to me, is the way you walk the path of life each day. It is the things you do and the things you say. Success is the way we live our life each day, is how we communicate with others, It is the legacy we leave behind. Success is being big of heart and open-minded. Success is being faithful to your friends and kind and generous to strangers. Success requires loving and caring for your family and all the things we learn from their experiences. Ultimately, success requires showing you good conduct and reputation all day and every day with everything you do, even when somebody is not looking. That is what spells success.
Yeah.
Love that, dude. I absolutely love that. When did you write your book, Felix?
I think it was right after Katrina when we thought we had lost everything, and we hired Erik and I. We hired a coach.
It's 2007. 2007.
Remember that we hired a coach, and one time I was talking to him, and I was telling things aloud, things that what I felt, and all of the notes. It's from meetings that I used to go, conference that I used to go, and every time something hit me, I would just write it down. And I had a bunch of written stuff written in a file. And he said, you should put that in a book. And I said, me write a book? I don't know how to write a book. But then one day I said, well, let me go ahead and try it. And that's what it is.
Nothing stops Felix Garcia. Look at him. Once again, I say it over and over on all these podcasts. You got to watch YouTube. You got to see the book. You got to meet Felix face to face and Ebens. Erik, wrapping it up. Anything, buddy?
Man, I can't follow that up. I mean, that's.
I know.
I will say this. I am. When you want to talk about privilege, I sit back and say, man, like I won. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I won the lottery when it comes to parents, not just dad, but parents. That I am tremendously blessed in that I can honestly say that the past 21 years of being in business, day one I stepped foot in this office, he looked at me as an equal. And he gave me an equal voice to speak into business decisions. And I would say that not only has he been a fantastic father, but like there is truly this peership between the two of us where we are peers, and man, I'm just incredibly blessed to be able to have someone to look up to. Like he didn't have a father growing up. Ebens, you shared your parents split up. Jason, I think you might have a similar story.
Yeah, my parents split up.
And like I'm sitting here like, man, like what a blessing to be able to have an earthly father who has character and we don't always agree. Like we fight, we argue. I mean, we'll go toe to toe.
Right.
But like, man, just when you talk about character and integrity and authenticity, that's
makes you grateful.
Incredibly grateful.
That's right. That's right. So loyal listeners, here's the deal. This has been overwhelming because as I've went through, I've listened to what everybody said like you have. Maybe you don't listen the way that I do, but I check off boxes. When I listen to this, not only in how grateful they are, but I start to realize something that I really think is amazing. We have, you hear me talk about it a lot, loyal listeners, and really put together this podcast when we talk about the 5 truths of insurance. When you do it the right way, you're going to experience these. We talk about flexible schedule as the number one thing, talking about being able, as Felix said, to plant today, but you're going to harvest tomorrow. Understanding that it is a long-term game, long-run game, but to be honest with you, after about 8 to 10 years, you can kind of put it in halfway gear and work 25 to 30 hours. That's one of the truths of insurance. The financial freedom and the financial freedom you can get, which is truth number 2. And you really think about how successful we actually all are. Ebens, I guarantee, would tell you that just like I would tell you, I've never thought that I would make this type of money. Never. I would never thought that I would have this, Number 3 happens to be community builder. That's another thing that you get, another truth of insurance. And these people live it and breathe it. I specifically asked questions about it. Number 4 is empire builder. You heard Ebens talking about the fact that he didn't want to build his empire or build somebody else's empire. He wanted to build his. And when you get to know and you listen to the podcast that Ebens and I did, you'll find out that he actually doesn't build the empire. He entrusts other people in his organization to help build the empire by them building their own. That's just how he makes that connection there. And the fifth one's mentorship. And I think it's important because every one of them talked about it. Eric just talked about it with Felix, being his dad, but also from day one being treated as an equal. That's mentorship. I'll find out a lot of times that some of the best mentors, I'll say to them, you're a good mentor. And a lot of them will say, I didn't know, I was just doing what I thought I could do. And one of the things that I've read lately, I've been reading a book called Radical Candor. And one of the things that the lady said, I think it's by Kim Scott or something like that, Kim something. One of the things she said is that you were hearing it a lot, is that empathy is the future of this world. It is the number one emotion besides love, which has always been here. And Peter even says that's the best. Empathy says that we are keep in mind what this is. I want to say this real quick as we wrap this up. Sympathy is the fact that I understand where you're coming from. I feel your pain. Someone is passed. I have sympathy for you. I feel what that could be like because I've experienced it. Empathy is me listening to someone who's having an issue or maybe experiencing something, someone who died, and packaging that up and giving it back to them to let them know that you were listening to them.
Yep.
Ebens, Eric, we were just taught this by Troy Smith, right? I never had empathy. She takes it a step further and she says, what is compassion? And she explains that compassion is nothing more than empathy with action. And I think that that's where mentorship comes in. Listening to the struggles of where someone has been without having a father or having parents that were splitting up or coming from another country and being able to package that up and having no relative relation to what they're even thinking about, but to package it up and give it back to them, whether that's a producer or whether that's an immigrant or who that is compassion. That is empathy in action. And I believe that mentorship, so through a flexible schedule, financial freedom, community builder, empire builder, and also mentorship, these are the examples of the 5 truths of insurance and why we make this the greatest industry God ever created. I do what I do because I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Cass. He's out.